This video is brought to you by Squarespace. When it comes to websites, online stores, etc., there's no place to build a beautiful online presence like Squarespace. What's going on, lads? You read the title. We're watching Twilight today. Not just the first one, not just another one, the entire thing. It's going to take me about 10 hours, starting at now. And I'm mostly doing this because I haven't seen them before. I went to see the second one in middle school, was not paying attention. I don't want to beat around the bush any longer. I kind of just want to get into it. So, I'll see you guys on the other side. This is a fascinating movie right here, and I think I like it. The backbone of this entire thing is obviously Edward Cullen, played by Robert Pattinson. First of all, his reveal is hilarious, but him as a character is, I don't know if I like him or hate him. Something I did know about this before going into it is that everybody's just insanely uncomfortable the whole time. Kristen Stewart and him never look happy, and now that I'm watching it, it's like I understand, you know? They're both really weird to each other. He's so angry and concerned that she's concerned. And she's weird to him too. But the thing is, it's like she doesn't get as much backstory as he does. So I'm like, why is she like this? Besides maybe her dad, her dad's so weird. There's the ketchup thing, which was, I hate to say it, weirdly sexual. Something I wrote is that at least he's communicative. And I'm referring to Edward Cullen. At least he's because, you know, he could walk away. And obviously this is their way of saying, like, he's into her. But I do appreciate that he doesn't just ghost her when he's uncomfortable or concerned. He's at least like, listen, I don't want to be friends anymore. And it's like, good on him for being upfront. Jesus. I think there's a lot of very important dramatic beats going on here. She's like, how long have you been 17 for? And instead of saying it in any, like, really dramatic, cinematic way, he's just like, a while. And then when they first do the run, every time they do the run, it's fucking amazing. It's like a musical with no music. They prance around and they follow each other as if they're, like, singing a song, but they're not. They're reciting the book. I like it. I think it's stupid, but I like it. The people that really hate these movies, I get it. You know, it's not good. It looks like shit most of the time. But what else would you want out of a romantic vampire film that was set in 2008? This is exactly what that is. You got the thing. Okay, wait. I have to talk about James. First of all I could think of when he was on screen was Aphex Twin. I'm like, that is Aphex Twin right there. He's not a thing before the last hour of the film, and then he's the entire thing. Just a fascinating guy. First of all, James is a hilarious name for a villain, and everything he does is gold. From his intro to the mirror thing, the way he does the same face, you know what I mean. When you boil it down, this is just a movie about guys being weird. That's all it is. It's like there's the dad, there's Edward, there's Jacob, who's weird, but I'm sure we'll have more to say about him later. And then there's obviously James, who's a fucking freak. Oh, and I also said I didn't like the side friends. It's those two dudes. No. I hope we see less of them from here on out. Oh, the Radiohead needle drop for the credits was the most unexpected thing I've ever heard in my life. Jesus Christ, this is something. I understand now. We're going to move on to whatever the next one is. I don't feel like looking up the title, to be honest. But I'll see you guys in 2 hours. All right. I ordered a spicy chicken sandwich halfway through that, and it's hitting right now. Anyways, this was such a downgrade. It's obviously Jacob's movie. This is just the first film, but with Jacob. At least the first half of it is. And I just want to take this time to say, I can't believe there was even a Team Jacob versus Edward thing to begin with. Jacob fucking sucks. He's terrible. He's Oh my god. Well, okay, first of all, I think it's just hilarious how much buffer Taylor Lautner got between the first and the second film. And even the movie realizes that. They acknowledge it, I think, 6 separate times. I like how Rob Pattinson, compared to the first, he's a lot sadder in this one. Just as much of an upgrade. I just think this one is so much less interesting because it's not as self-aware. There's no camp to this. It went full soap opera, and I think that's so disappointing because they introduced the werewolves and didn't really have that much fun with it. I was just trying to figure out like where the pants went when they turned into werewolves, because, you know, I did write down solid breakup, and this is referring to the initial breakup between Edward and, I don't even know what her name is. What the hell? Bella. Right. Yeah, I thought he did a good job. He was respectful about it. He said what he needed to say. The line, you're not good for me. I mean, he's honest. I just think, again, going back to the communication thing, Edward is so good at that. And Jacob is not at all. He needs to like squeeze his feelings out of him. And it just gets really messy really fast. At one point, Anna Kendrick said Homeboy could have been a psycho. And that just really threw me off. But back to Jacob, I think he's a tool. She crashed into a rock and the man didn't say anything. He was like, are you trying to get yourself killed? I'm like, dude, ask if she's okay. Like, ask how you can help. You know what I mean? Don't just sit there and like mock her. Why is this even up for debate, man? And then in the end, it's like, I get that he's frustrated because she did like lead him on in a way, but also he's so clearly so much worse for her than Edward is. And I don't think Edward's perfect, but he's just so much more open, and I think that's crucial in any relationship. But as for the movie, I think it's just so much work. I think the switching directors was a terrible idea. They lost the color palette, they lost the fun whips and pans and all that jazz. Once they introduce vampire law, this is not what I came here for. Oh my god. This is just a bad movie. I know why they call it the next one Eclipse, because I'm assuming they just come together and... I don't know. Let's jump into this third one, shall we? So, in my best Big Joel impression, this is weird, right? Anyways, this is bad. First, let's talk a little bit more about Jacob and Edward. Edward in this one is starting to show off his more unappealing side. He's a little too overprotective for my taste. You know, I still like him a lot more than Jacob. Jacob just digs himself a hole in this movie, but Edward is definitely not my favorite. If anything, I've noticed that Alice is the one Bella should be with, but that's a whole different video altogether. My main thing about this movie is that it was just lame. It's just a lame movie. They've tried to assemble this crew of vampires and this crew of werewolves, and they can like fight together to fight the evil vampires. And they meet at the Cullen household, which is supposed to be like the equivalent of the Avengers building or whatever. And it's just lame. And it's also just completely unnecessary. This is the first time where I'm realizing that the films are really wrapping themselves up. Like, these didn't need to happen, because what this felt like was all backstory. It's just like they do a little bit of this and then backstory for some random character and then a little bit of that and then backstory for Jasper, who I thought was supposed to be the weird guy. I thought he was just supposed to be a weird like outcast, but they made him sexy. But I want to loop back to the love triangle because that's what we're all here to see. Jacob just gets horrible in this. There's that one scene where they're by the mountains and he's like, I'm not gonna give up, and it's so forceful, and I'm just like, why were people ever on this man's team? Edward did propose. Edward has proposed in this movie, and that's good. And I don't know if they're great together for that, but if it keeps Jacob away, that's good. Although I'm sure he's not going to be thrilled about it down the line. What I like about this one, though, is that we're starting to see Jacob and Edward in the same room together more often, in the same tent sometimes. In that scene, while we're on that topic, Jacob goes, let's face it, I am hotter than you, which is hilarious that someone wrote that. At one point, they're like getting really close together, and I kind of wanted them to kiss. I also want to note that the dad is completely out of the picture at this point. He is not in these movies anymore. He's kind of just like, whatever happens, happens. And I'm cool with that. But that's really all I have to say about this one. It just felt so unnecessary. I really hope these last two are sort of exciting or really introduce something spicy, because this one didn't do anything spicy. I don't want to waste any more time. I have 4 hours left of this, so let's just hop right into them. Okay, so thankfully there's a lot to talk about in this one. We'll start with the wedding. A legitimately cool wedding scene. It's like the one time in this entire series where it didn't feel dated. The dad is finally a part of the story. I mean, albeit not that much, but he seems like he cares about his daughter, which is cool. Anna Kendrick delivered another speech. But then Jacob shows up. And at first I'm like, oh, this is sweet. He's happy for them. Then he does what he always does, and he starts acting like a baby and tries to start a fight and then runs off into the woods. And I'm just like, how old are you, man? I really don't get it at this point. I'm like, what is she offering that what did she do to him? I'm sure it was explained in one of those backstories that I didn't pay attention to, but I'm just like, dude, find someone else. You have amazing abs. You have great shoulders. You can do better. So then there's the honeymoon, which lasts like a long time. They play chess. They have sex in the ocean. They have sex in the bed. They have sex in like every different spot. At one point, Edward laughs, and it's like such a wholesome moment because we haven't seen the guy smile or have a good time for basically the entire saga, and he lets out such a genuine laugh, and it really warmed my heart. I had this thought halfway through this that's unrelated to anything, but I'm just like, why don't these vampires pursue sports? You know, like in a Dash Incredible type of way, where it's like they don't have to try too hard, but they can be the best if they want to. They can go to the Olympics. Why don't they do that? I wrote, this thing can't go 2 seconds without playing a song, which is true. Feels like every 2 seconds at one point they're either having sex or a new song is playing. And that's just how the whole series has been. By now we're 50 minutes into the film, and not a single bit of conflict has happened besides Jacob throwing a pity party at the wedding. And you're like, oh, this is just kind of like a nice movie. But then the baby happens. Edward knocks her up, and first of all, I think it's hilarious that they're really riding out every aspect of a relationship with this story. Like they did the marriage thing, now they're doing the baby thing, and obviously the baby thing is the weirdest thing I've ever seen. The baby's like eating her alive. She looks terrible. And then he saves her by like sucking on her venom or blood, something. There's like a Jimmy Neutron ass bloodstream. There's 2 very crazy things that happen near the end of this movie. One, she names the baby Renesmee. One of the worst names. They said it a few different times. I still don't fully know what it is. And then Jacob imprints on the baby. And I will be honest, guys. They've mentioned it many times. I still don't know what that means. It sounds terrible and really sexual. So I didn't want Twilight fans to be mad at me, so I hit up my friend Amanda the Jedi to explain what imprinting was, and this is that.
Okay, so I go by the name Amanda the Jedi on the internet, so obviously I'm an expert in Twilight. Imprinting is an uncontrollable phenomenon that happens when these shapeshifters in Twilight find their soulmate. That person becomes their reason for being. They're unconditionally bound to them for life, being anything they need them to be in that moment. Sometimes it's as a protector or a really close friend, but it kind of always cycles towards the romantic side of things. Though the romantic aspect can sometimes be an area of contention, some people believe that in certain situations it will always just be that protector role. But no, the end function is always intended to be a relationship, and that is what the imprinter is going to want. Don't believe me? Go read Breaking Dawn. It leaves very little room for interpretation. If a shapeshifter imprints on someone who is a literal child like Jacob and Quill did, they do just take on that protector role until the imprintee is age appropriate, at which time they start to pursue the relationship. I think they have a word for that. It is suggested that the imprintee would have the ability to turn down these types of advances, but it doesn't seem to happen. Alice's visions of Renesmee and Jacob's future leave little room for confusion there. But the point remains that the imprinter could literally help raise a child from birth and then turn it into a relationship. Yikes.
This series sucks. And then she wakes back up. She's not dead. They think the baby kills her, Bella, and then she's not. She has red eyes, which implies that she's a vampire. And then they cut to the credits, and the credits for once look kind of nice. They're definitely different. They do not match the rest of the credits in this series, but they look nice. I really liked them. And that's what I have to say about this movie. It's... Jesus. And we have one more movie left, and I can't tell you how happy I am about it. We're going to get into this. We're going to see what happens. We're going to see what else Jacob imprints on. And yeah, I'll see you guys on the other side. Oh my god. I can't tell if I almost cried because of the actual movie, because of the very cheesy montage at the end, or if it's because I'm just so happy this is over. I think it's the second one. But anyway, something very noticeable about this last movie is the CGI, which is just god-awful. It looks like shit from beginning to end. They used green screen when they didn't need to in every scene. The movie starts with like Kristen Stewart realizing that Taylor Lautner imprinted her daughter. There's a line that compares the child's name to the Loch Ness Monster. That's pretty good. There is a hilarious sex scene in here. Like, really funny. Like, what are the effects? At this point, and I'm just saying this, I know it was never going to happen, but I feel like Edward Cullen should have showed some hole. I'm looking at him in the credits right now. Yeah, I stand by what I just said. Back to the CGI, though, I think the most repulsive use of it was in that one weird confrontation scene. And it's scenes like that where I'm like, there were packed theaters to see this movie. Like people jammed in there and then watched that. That's crazy. Okay, and then Rami Malek shows up. And I almost lost my goddamn mind. He doesn't do much, but he does do enough to make an impact. Edward wears a hoodie at one point. It looks pretty good. He should have done that more often, in my opinion. At one point, the dad delivers one of the funniest lines in this entire saga, where he goes, "You've grown half a foot. Seriously, like 6 inches." And I just love how unnecessary the 6 inches part was. Like, yeah, that's half a foot. It was funnier when I watched it. I think what I hate about this movie, this is easily like one of the worst ones in the list, is the fact that it's just mostly planning. 70% of this is just leading up to the final battle, which, let me admit, is pretty great. It's super energetic, it's snappy, it's not violent, but so violent at the same time. They're just ripping heads off left and right, and I loved it. I had goosebumps, I'll admit it. But yeah, most of the movie is just planning. It doesn't even feel like a movie. It feels like one giant third act that lasts 2 hours. Just kind of what those later Avengers movies ended up being. But those like worked for some reason as non-movies. This really was not a movie. This wasn't a movie. This was one fight scene that had a lot of build-up. And then, like I said, there was that montage at the end with that whatever her name is, Christina something. It was a good song, and that's about it. That's the Twilight saga. As some of you know, this is not the first time I've done a big movie marathon in one day. The only other time I've done it was with The Lord of the Rings, and that was longer in time, but it was less draining than this was, because I felt like I really experienced this relationship in this movie. Not in an impressive way. I'm not really complimenting the film there. I'm just saying I spent a lot of time with Kristen Stewart today and didn't get to see one Rob Pattinson hole. I know you guys are waiting for the rank. The ranking goes, where the fuck did it go? From worst to best, it goes Eclipse, Breaking Dawn Part 2, New Moon, Breaking Dawn Part 1, and Twilight, the first one. And yeah, that's Twilight, I guess. I guess I watched Twilight. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to check out all these films and form your own opinion if you want. And before you head out, I want to give a quick thank you to this week's sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace have been a consistent sponsor of the channel, and for good reason. They're a great place to go if you're looking to build your brand, whether that be through an online store, a blog, a portfolio, you name it. Because of their wide array of award-winning designer templates, they will help you make a beautiful website that not only looks good, but matches your style. If you need any help, they have 24-hour customer service to walk you through any issues you run into. And the best part about it all is that if you go to squarespace.com/Karsten, you can get 10% off of your first purchase. Once again, thank you so much, Squarespace, for sponsoring this video. I cannot recommend them enough. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.